Welcome back to Man Down Sports. As you can see from the thumbnail, we are here to talk about Nikola Jokic and some comments that Draymond Green had to say about him and European players. I think it's a conversation that's kind of growing in the media as of late. Mainly people like Kendrick Perkins have been vocal about why he think maybe Joel Embiid or Jason Tatum should be ahead of Jokic in the MVP race. And he had a lot of back and forth with JJ Redick about that. And then Draymond Green on his podcast, he had Gilbert Arenas as a guest, and he asked him about the double standard that it seems like it is when it comes to European players. I'm gonna play what Draymond Green had to say, and I'm gonna come back with my commentary. But before I get to the audio clip, make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. And on your way in, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and that notification bell so you can get all our videos when they come out. But here's what Draymond Green had to say on his podcast, the Draymond Green podcast on the Volumes YouTube channel with Gilbert Arenas as a guest.
Why does European players not get the same flack for winning championships or not than U.S. American-born guys? For instance, I saw a list today Stephen A. put out. And it was like the players with under the most pressure to win a championship. I think James Harden was 1, CP was 2. Jason Tatum was 3, Joker was 4. Joker has 2 MVPs. Joker has 2 MVPs. More than likely about to be a 3rd MVP.
Mm-hmm.
And he's older than JT.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that he's 4th, but JT's 3rd? And Luka wasn't even on the list, right? Just now, obviously Luka's a little younger than JT, but I feel like over the years, European players has not had the same, caught the same flack of winning a championship as U.S. players, and I don't understand that. And I wanted to know if you feel the same way about that.
It's really a knock, to be honest. Do they think that they're even capable of winning it by themselves?
Mm-hmm.
Do they hold them to the greatness of what they hold the American players to? Mm-hmm. Right? So when you have a Luka, when you have Jokic, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, they're good. European players are coming over, they're dominating, but do we hold them to the same standard? So it's like they get a free, they get a free easy pass, right? They get a free easy pass versus someone you know me, you know what I'm about.
All right, so you heard what they said. Draymond Green threw the question out there. He said I was watching Stephen A. Smith, I guess, on First Take this morning. I didn't see that clip. It would have been interesting to see what his explanation was for how he ranked the players and why he thought it was more pressure on them to win and all those things. Me personally, I just think this is something that the media does. They have to, part of their job is to actually build up the drama, talk about it, build it up, so it can get to a high boil, and it has more of a bang or impact at the end once the player actually succeeds or fails, right? So when they're doing it right now with Kevin Durant, I think they was like, oh, this is a must win this season. If they don't win, it's a failure. So they build up all that pressure. And then if Kevin Durant is able to win this year, they can go ahead and welcome him in and say all these great things about him. But if he fails, that gives them a whole summer worth of things to talk about. So the media is good for that. This is what they do. They build it up. So they got these 4 players that Stephen A. Smith says has the most pressure on them to win the championship. And where's the pressure coming from? Right? So and this like players put this on themselves. This is an internal pressure for the most part, but for the media to put that pressure on you and say you have to do X, Y, and Z, because I think that's a little bit weird. I don't prescribe to that, but I guess it's been working in sports media for a long time. But getting back to what they said, Draymond Green posed a question, and he was like, well, I mean, how is Joker, the 2-time MVP, about to get a third MVP, fourth on this list behind Jason Tatum and Harden and whoever else he had on that list, and Luka's not even on there? Are we giving the European players a different standard? Are we giving them a pass? And Gilbert Arenas seems to think so as well. And I kind of agree, but then I kind of got another idea of what I think what it really is. Let me first address what Gilbert Arenas said. He said it's kind of a knock on the European players that the media is not dangling this championship carrot in front of their face to dictate whether their legacy is going to go one way or another, right? He's saying it's kind of a knock that the media is saying, you know what, we're not even going to talk about them. We're not even going to say that, because it's almost like they're saying, we don't think you're that great anyway to put all that pressure on your shoulders, right? So I'm not saying that's true, but what I'm saying is, from Gilbert Arenas' standpoint, what he's describing is, if you don't put that pressure on them, you're almost saying you're not as good as these guys that we are putting pressure on, which is kind of it's kind of an oxymoron, because if you really think about it, in theory, that is what they're saying, but in practice, they're saying something totally different. They're saying a total opposite. They're saying that they're the greatest. Jokic is the best in the league. He's the MVP, about to get a third MVP in 4 years. Luka is the MVP front runner before every season start. They're saying Luka is all these great things, but then they're not putting that pressure on them to win a championship, as if they don't think they can actually achieve it, right? So that's one thing. That's what Gilbert is saying. What I actually think is going on is they're just not part of the media story in their way. The media has already got certain go-to stories that they can pull on, that they can rely on to get clicks, to get a lot of conversation going, and grabbing the next up and coming star and then saying, well, you can't do X, Y, and Z, or you have to do X, Y, and Z. You'll have to win it in order for us to invite you in at the table, or you have to win it to do this, or you have to win it without this person. Same thing they did with Kobe. Kobe, we're not going to consider you one of the greats unless you win it without Shaq. And they put that out there. Or they tell Kevin Durant, oh, you got to win it without the Warriors. Or they told Steph Curry, oh, you got to win it without KD. Or they tell LeBron, you got to win it without Wade. It's always a different story, or different goalpost that can be, or different area the goalpost can be moved to create stories, right? That same carrot doesn't work if you dangling it in front of Jokic's face, because what fun are you going to have in the media with that? What fun are you going to have by saying Jokic needs to win, right? They're not part of the story in that way. It's the American players, and might I add, mostly the Black American players, that they use this trope for, right? That they use this little game. It's nobody else. They're not saying it to nobody else. So yeah, the way Gilbert said it, yeah, they are getting a free pass. Yeah, they are getting it on easy street. They are getting the less pressure as possible, right? I if you contrast and compare everything, I remember when Giannis was getting MVPs, Defensive Player of the Years, and everybody was saying he was the next guy to be the best in the league, to be the face of the league, and he was going home first, second round in the playoffs, and it was like, you got to win it. They dangled that carrot in his face. You got to win it. Right? So, all right, what do? He go out there and win it. Right? Now they say, okay, now we can say you're the best. Now we got to find another guy to put that to. Right? But they're never going to put it on Jokic. You can go back in all of these modern era years, and you're going to find that every guy that gets that type of pressure from the media that say you have to do X, Y, and Z has always been an American-born Black player or Black player. I think Giannis might be the only foreigner that might got it, but he's Black as well. It just doesn't, and it's not a race thing, right? I'm just making an observation. It's not a race thing. It's just that it doesn't stick well when you do it to a European player. It just doesn't. It don't stick well. Like what fun are you going to have by saying we're not going to consider Luka X, Y, Z until he win it, or the same thing from Jokic? You're just not going to get that type of sting. And the media knows that. The media knows they can dangle that carrot out there and get that story, right? But the person they're having a real problem with doing this with is Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant don't care what they say. Like, he's not wired that way where he feels like, I'm going to go home and I'm not going to sleep well until I can win this championship, to prove to the media and prove to Charles Barkley and prove to Shaquille O'Neal that I could do it without this guy or without that guy, or I can do it this way, or I can do it with this type of team, right? He's not going to lose no sleep at all. And that's part of the tension between Kevin Durant and the media, because they can't charge him up in that way and put that battery in his back, right? But that's all I wanted to say about it, man. Let me know what you think in the comments, man. Do you think it's a double standard, just like Draymond Green said? Do you think they're not putting the same type of pressure on Jokic as they might any other player? Let me know in the comments, and then